Giants fans, thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Only a Giant. I am your host, Michael Doherty. If you could please, as normal, like and subscribe. And I guess first and foremost, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We're here to talk about football. Here to talk about the Giants game, obviously, that was on Thanksgiving at 4:30 yesterday. First half seemed like it was one of the longest halves of football I've ever seen. I don't know why it seemed that way, but it just seemed like it went on forever. Penalty after penalty, probably one of the most undisciplined games for the Giants, at least, that I've seen in in a long time, a very long time. Uh, so let's jump right in, I guess. Like I mentioned first off here, if you could please like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. For anybody that's new, never listening to me before, thanks for checking me out. Tell your friends. Uh, really just here to talk about Giants football and I'm not going to get into crazy analytics and crazy detail per se, but we're just going to kind of break things down, chop it up a little bit, and see what we come up with. So, uh, first off, as well, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Me myself was, my Thanksgiving was pretty low key. Cooked some food for the family, had a few drinks, watched a few movies with the son, and then watched the Giants. And as per normal, I feel like in the last, I don't know, since what, 2016, really, 2022 with an asterisk there, of course. Watch the Giants disappoint me. That's pretty standard at this point. Although I guess maybe a lot of people right now are really kind of more rooting for losses. Um, but a couple of big things that came out of that as well. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence hurt. Sounds like it's going to be a long-term injury, probably out for the year. Same with Theo Johnson. And then the game prior to that, the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus is officially fired at this point. So good for them, probably at this point, to kind of get rid of him and hopefully find a new coach that's a little better for what they need at this point. But let's jump into the stats of the game first, and then we'll kind of talk about offense. We'll talk about defense, and then we'll, kind of wrap it up from there. This may be kind of a short one. Obviously, we didn't get a preview episode out just because of the timing with Thanksgiving and kind of the quick turnaround here. Uh, so apologies on that, but we should be pretty much regular back to normal here after this week. So for the Giants, Drew Lock, 21 for 32, 178 yards, no touchdowns and an interception, sacked six times for 47 yards, believe it or not. He did run in a touchdown. He had four rushes for 57 yards. So that's good. On the running back side of it, Tyrone Tracy, 9 carries, 32 yards. Devin Singletary, who actually seemed to start in this game, had 7 carries for 23 yards. Clear that Tyrone Tracy was still the better running back. No fumbles this time. Broadcasts kept mentioning Tyrone Tracy. Oh, he's got to hang on to the ball, and there's been issues with that. While they're not wrong, it's only been the last two games. This isn't like a career reoccurring thing for him. He did not have troubles with fumbles prior to that, really, for the most part. Uh, Obviously, you don't want him fumbling, but I just felt like the broadcast bringing that up over and over again. Oh, he's a rookie. He's got to stop fumbling. This isn't hopefully a reoccurring thing. I thought they overplayed that a little bit with that. Uh, Reception wise, Malik Neighbors was targeted, I think, like 12 times, get a lot of targets, 8 catches, 69 yards. Theo Johnson, I thought, was kind of low key, one of the better players on the field, 5 catches, 54 yards for the Giants. And then Tyrone Tracy, 2 for 33. Slayton had 2 for 8. Jalen Hyatt had 2 catches for 8 yards as well. Wandell had 2 for 6. Defensively for the Giants, Tyler Nubin flying all over the field, had 12 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Bobby Okereke seemed like he kind of readied the ship as well with 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass defense. I thought Adoree played pretty well, and Cordell Flott seemed to be flying all over the field as well, but another game with no sacks. Obviously, another game with no interceptions, and that's a big issue with this team. I think we did have, I believe there was one fumble recovery in there, or maybe that was actually brought back. So I could be wrong on that. I think they ruled that not a fumble. That was the Cooper Rush fumble in the end zone. Um, for Dallas, Cooper Rush, 21 of 36, 195 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, not sacked at all. Uh, Dallas rushing the ball, 22 rushes for 112 yards with 1 touchdown. He averaged 5.1 yards per carry. And for him, really, that was kind of a career game, believe it or not. Doesn't look super sexy, but you average 5.1 yards, you get over 100 yards, and hey, it's a recipe for success. Dallas has not been able to run the ball very well this year, and the Giants were like, here, please run the ball. They could have ran probably a lot more than that if they decided they wanted to. Cavante Turpin, believe it or not, was the leading reception guy for the Dallas Cowboys, 4 receptions for 53 yards. Jalen Tolbert, 2 for 41. CeeDee Lamb, 2 for 39 with like 3 drops. Luke Schoonmaker, 5 for 33. Brandon Cooks, 3 for 16 with a touchdown. Rico Dowdle, 3 for 11. And then Jonathan Mingo, 1 for 2 yards. Uh, Believe it or not, leading target person for Dallas was actually Brandon Cooks. I did not expect that, but it was probably nice for Dallas to get him back. Dallas is now at 5-7. Giants are 2-10. Beautiful. What else do we have here? Defensively for Dallas, I guess I'm not going to go through all the stats because I feel like there's a bunch of them, but they had 6 total sacks. Eric Kendricks had 1, Donovan Wilson had 1, Osa Odigizua had 1, Micah Parsons 1.5, Mozzie Smith, who we seem to make look like a star every time we play him, even though he's one of the worst defensive tackles in the league, and then Carl Lawson, also a sack. So, oh, and 1 interception, obviously, as well for Dallas with DeMarvion Overshown, who had the interception that he kind of tipped up to himself and then returned it for a touchdown on that little screen. So, what does this mean for the Giants? I guess we can start on the offensive side of the ball, and not a lot of surprise, I would say. Obviously, no Tommy DeVito in this game, and we knew that that might be the case just with a short turnaround, with I believe a forearm injury. I'm sure he was doing everything he could do to play in this game because he didn't want to lose that shot. But I don't think Drew Lock did anything to specifically separate himself, make him look better. I think he actually probably, in my opinion, looked worse than Tommy DeVito, and that's probably more from the turnover side of things. A lot of fumbles, a lot of just putting the ball in harm's way. There is some good mixed in there. I liked a couple of shots that he took deep, even though they weren't completed. But when you fumble the ball, when you put the ball in harm's way, that's a for sure way to lose a game. Quite honestly, and this was, even though it didn't feel like it, this was a 1-score game at the end, and you take away a fumble or two, and maybe this is a game that the Giants are in and potentially winning. Uh, Granted, once again, most people may not have wanted to win this game, but we'll look at the running the ball, and obviously we didn't rush the ball a bunch. Possession wise, I feel like we didn't have a lot of possessions. Yeah, good possessions, we'll say. I actually feel like we probably did have a lot of possessions compared to a lot of other games, just because the game was kind of a slop fest on both sides of it. Uh, but I think rushing the ball, Tyrone Tracy is clearly the better runner to me than Devin Singletary, but just something that we don't seem to commit to. And I don't know if that's a Brian Daboll thing where, he's just not willing to commit to running the ball consistently. But it really is something that I wish that we would stick to a little bit more. Now, yeah, first possession. We did a great job running the ball. We ran the ball with Devin Singletary. We ran the ball with uh, Tyrone Tracy, even Drew Lock kind of pitched in, and we had some smart throws to Malik Neighbors. I think he had 3 targets on the first drive, maybe even 4. Uh, so a good, really, really good first drive of the game, but then we just seem to like abandon anything that's working after that. Maybe that's Drew Lock, maybe that's Brian Dable getting too pass heavy, too pass happy. I don't know, but something that's just very confusing with this offense. There's never seems to be any clear game plan with this offense where you can say, hey, the Giants saw a weakness here and they were exposing it. It doesn't seem to be something that's happening anymore. Something where I think the play calling is lacking with this team, with this offense, and yeah, you could say the quarterback has a certain play in that, and I don't disagree with you on that. But at the same time, like this is an issue, and I think it's Dable. I'm not opposed to him sticking around if that's what ends up happening. But at this point, man, I think you got to clean house. You got to get him out of here. I'm actually fine, to be truthful with you. I'm fine if we keep Joe Shane, but I think it's going to be a tough sell. Tough sell either way to kind of not clean house. Uh, Passing the ball for the Giants, obviously, if you look at the stats, nothing crazy. 20, I think, what was it, 21 for 32 for 178 yards. So pretty good completion percentage, I would say. But sacked 6 times. Seemed like he was Drew Lock was kind of slow in getting the ball out of his hands a few times. There was a play earlier in the game where, and I think this was a Drew Lock staple that he had ran at Seattle, where he kind of fakes the screen left and he fakes right, and then he has the tight end seam where he just guns it, and it looked like he had it. It just was a little too hesitant to throw it and then got sacked. Kind of seems like a Drew Lock thing from the very beginning. Even if you go back to early preseason games, one of the games that he did play, that's what you saw. You saw hesitancy to throw the ball. One of the kind of weird things to think about that too is, why is everyone hesitant to throw in Dable's offense? Is it they don't understand the offense? Is I don't know. It just seems weird that everyone seems so hesitant to throw the ball in Dable's offense. Fucking wing the ball, man. Throw the ball. Let's get some fire in this offense, and we just don't. We just don't. Reception wise, obviously Malik Neighbors was the main guy. I think he had a couple drops, but not overly worried about that. He still makes plays when he does get the ball, on occasion, I should say. So. Theo Johnson was the other guy that did have a few catches and seemed to be making some plays with the ball. 5 catches, 54 yards, and it seemed like he was kind of toward the latter part of the game, really kind of getting involved in the offense, which was exciting, fun to see. And then, of course, obviously we can't have nice things, and he is now out for the season. It sounds like as well. Defensively for the Giants, obviously anybody can run the ball if they want to against us. That's a given. I think if Dallas decided to run the ball a little bit more consistently, they probably would have blown us out by double digit scores. 14 points plus. Um, who knows? But uh, a defense that I just don't understand. To be truthful with you, I don't really know what the issue is with our defense, other than not very talented, not very talented team in general. But it just seems like, if you know that a team's going to run the ball, you should be able to find a way to scheme up a defense that can stop the run. Maybe not consistently, maybe not every play, but uh, if you know they're going to run the ball, and you are playing the run, you're leaving the pass probably open a little bit, but you're dedicating to stopping the run. And it just doesn't seem like we can ever do that, especially when we need to stop. Toward the end of the game, to even give us a chance to get the ball back with like 150 left. Couldn't stop the run, couldn't stop the pass either, to be completely honest with you. But just weird to me with this defense, where it just seems like we really, really cannot do anything well. I can't get interceptions, can't get turnovers, can't get off the field on third down. And this was obviously a Dallas team that was led by Cooper Rush, not Dak Prescott. If this was a Dak led team, I'm sure it would have been much worse. But very frustrating. Now, um, I don't know how much we want to talk about the game that, we just watched here, because obviously everyone is probably frustrated with the Giants at this point, or at least happy that they're losing. So, maybe let's talk a little bit more about that. The fact that Giants are 2-10, they are currently holding the number one overall pick. I saw a Doug Analytics thing where there's a 40% chance that the Giants will have the number one pick at the end of the season, based off like 50 simulations or something like that, or 500 simulations. It's kind of crazy that we're coming to that, and that we might legitimately have the number one pick. I don't know the last time that happened. Obviously, we had the number two pick with Saquon Barkley. 04, we had the fourth overall pick, and that's when we traded up and got Eli Manning. When was the last time the Giants had the number one overall pick? I don't know. And so it's unfortunate. I would say that it's this year that's the case, because obviously, if you talk to most draft analysis, or draft people, they say that these quarterbacks are falling behind the big three from last year of Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and uh, Drake May. So, this might be a tough draft to have that. Maybe this is a draft where you take Travis Hunter at number one overall, and then try to trade back into the end of the first and get somebody, whoever falls, if there's a quarterback that you like. I don't know. Uh, Kind of a scary prospect at that point. And I do like Cam Ward, definitely somebody I would be interested in. I'm kind of coming to be resigned to the fact that maybe we like Shador Sanders, who is actually playing right now for Colorado. I think he's having a pretty good game. Um, we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's something where I'm kind of slowly becoming resigned to that fact that we may get, one of these quarterbacks in this draft, even if they're not really a number one overall pick worthy player, but we're going to get forced into taking one. And that scares me a little bit. The other thing that I'm kind of starting to be a little bit nervous about is the fact that it seems like Joe Shane really does like Shador Sanders a lot. And what does that mean? You know, if we get forced to fire Brian Dable, does Deion Sanders come to New York as well? What is that going to look like? That's going to be a shit show in New York, I feel like. But I feel like I'm almost having to like mentally prepare for that to be the case because I think that that might very well happen if Brian Dable gets forced out at this point, and really it shouldn't be a forcing out. It's something that I think it's well deserved at this point. It's just whether John Mara has the balls to do it. Pretty much is what it comes down to. Um, so we'll see what happens there, guys. Number one overall pick seems, I would say at least a top three pick in this draft seems very likely. Um, and then we'll see what happens. Do you like Cam Ward more? Do you like the LSU guy? Do you like the Texas guy? I feel like there's really only two players, Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, that you would even consider at number one. But there's always that late riser. Jaden Daniels was the player last year. Obviously, he had a great season, but still into like bowl week and stuff like that. I was talking to some buddies and obviously very, very well plugged into the Twitter sphere or X sphere and everything. But they're all talking, maybe Jaden Daniels will go in the first round, and maybe, I'm not really sure. So maybe there'll be a player like that. Maybe it'll be that Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU guy. Maybe it'll be um, I don't know. Someone will come from somewhere. I was big on Kyle McCord for a while for Syracuse. Kind of slowly become less intrigued by that. Obviously, definitely not in the first round. I could take a flyer on him in the third, maybe the fourth, and definitely something I would be interested in. But probably a player at this point that I don't see being a franchise quarterback type thing. Although we do have the Senior Bowl coming up, and I do believe he had an invite to the Senior Bowl, so that'll be something to keep an eye on there. Keep an eye on those practices. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun to watch this year. Maybe I can. Yeah, I'd like to say I'd be able to go to a practice, but that won't ever happen. Um, but that'll be fun to watch. And then what do we do with the rest of the draft? We'll have an early second, early third. Where do we bolster this team with free agency as well? I think probably, next week we will do a light preview of the game against the Saints, but maybe we'll start looking at positions of need for the next year with the Giants at this point, and maybe some free agents. Maybe look at some free agents as well. Um, that's all I got for us today, guys. Awesome chatting with you here for a little bit. I know this is kind of a shorter episode just because didn't get the preview in, so didn't really have a score prediction. Although I would have predicted the Giants to lose. Didn't have a three keys to win, which the Giants wouldn't have done anyway. So that's just kind of where we're at this point. Um, if you could, obviously, as normal, please like and subscribe. The days will get better as a Giants fan. Maybe after this year, maybe after they fire Brian Dable, maybe Joe Shane, although I still would like them to keep him. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's all I got for us today, guys. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode here at Only a Giant. Um, love y'all. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, great Black Friday. Football about to start right now, so about to pull that up and finish up the day. Let's go Big Blue.